World Theatre Day was established in 1961. Celebrated annually on the 27th of March, the international theatre community comes together. To mark this, the international message is written by a theatre personality of world stature. The 2021 author of this message is Helen Mirren. At curtain time, around the world, this message is read on stages everywhere. From the Fire Hall Arts Centre, Vancouver, Canada, the unceded traditional lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsitsáyxemaat nations.
Tsitsáyxemaat, World Theatre Day Message.
Para los artistas, escritores, artesanas.
Men kanskje denne usikkerhet
has made them more able to survive the pandemic with
Con ingenio y con valentía.
Leur imagination s'est déjà traduite. Dans ces nouvelles circonstances,
これはインターネットのおかげでもあります。Så lenge det har vært mennesker på jorden, har de fortalt hverandre historier.
will last for as long as we stay here.
l'impulsion créative des auteurs.
Designere,
Bailarines, bailarinas.
作家、美術家、
Directors will
aldri slukne.
Et une compréhension renouvelée du monde.
of the world we all share.
Que todos compartimos.
Jeg kan ikke vente. その日が待ち遠しいですね。
J'en suis impatient.
I can't wait.
It's too dark in here. Now that's better. I can see you. Well, you can probably guess I'm inside a theater. And you know, theater people can be a little superstitious. There's lots of stories like that. Here's an interesting one. This little thing here is called a ghost light. And the rule is, in every theater, the ghost light has to be on all the time. I think one of the reasons is probably a liability thing. I mean, you just don't want people tripping over the furniture, the sets, bodies on the stage. Kind of makes sense. But another reason is that little superstition that you got to have the ghost light on because it wards off any evil spirits that might be lurking in the theater, and it prevents mischievous pranks. That's an interesting little story, isn't it? Hi, I'm Linda Cullen. I am your ringmaster for My First Time, and this is going to be a fabulous show with wonderful actors telling you about first performances, and I just can't wait to hear them. I'll tell you a little story about one of my things that happened when I first performed in a theater. I wasn't young, I was older, and of course I was very nervous, I was very new to it. And what I learned early on is that I was afflicted with three things. I'd be waiting off in the wings to go on, and I'd end up really cold, I'd start yawning, and I had a horrible bout of gastro problems, which meant I would start firing off. Really, they were weapons of mass destruction. So consider yourself fortunate that you are going to be watching this in the safety of your own homes, because we've already lost the lighting guy here, and my condolences to the family.
Happy World Theatre Day, everybody. I'm going to read you a little story. Every word of it is true. Every new show, of course, every first day of rehearsal, every opening night, and really every time you ever set foot on a stage, it's a first, never to be repeated. But for me, there's one notable first that will always stand out, a real first, and so far the last, I hope, the night the stage caught fire. It was a wonderful Christmas family musical at the Arts Club, Reflections on Crooked Walking, written and composed by the amazing Anne Mortifee, a singer of whom a Toronto critic once said, "If I could only listen to Anne Mortifee or Ella Fitzgerald for the rest of my life, I'd choose Anne Mortifee." The story was epic. In a magic village, the humble villagers were stricken with a sleeping sickness, all except for one very awake little girl who dragged the other villagers, barely conscious, through a wild journey, encountering strange characters, unspeakable dangers, each episode prodding them to come awake, to come to a fuller consciousness. And the tale has some notable forebears: Peer Gynt, The Pilgrim's Progress, The Divine Comedy, Lord of the Rings, and we had a phenomenal cast of villagers: Jane Mortifee, Rick Scott, Bernard Cuffling, Moira Wally. Anne was the evil force of darkness. I was the harbinger of light. And we were at war. We were powerful creatures of magic, sorcerers and spellmasters, so we could make a lot of trouble for each other, which included the throwing of spells all over the place, accompanied by spectacular pyrotechnics. We had at least a dozen flashpots hidden around the set. Well, one night, in the middle of a dueling duet between Anne and myself, I zapped her with my best thunderbolt. Unknown to us, the flashpot had been just a wee bit overloaded by an enthusiastic stagehand who probably thought, "Oh, that doesn't look like enough powder. This'll make it better." Now, the whole stage was draped with everything you could ever want in an enchanted forest. Vines and ferns, drooping branches, Spanish moss. It covered everything. Well, my thunderbolt detonated with an alarming crack, no more than 3 feet from Anne's right ear. She didn't even blink. She sang on. Nothing throws her off her game. And then as the smoke cleared, just behind Anne and right next to the overloaded flashpot, I saw a slight glimmer, and then a flicker, then a small flame, and then a full-fledged flame, and in seconds the whole downstage right scenery was on fire, and it was spreading quickly. Anne didn't see a thing. The audience did, and they were getting agitated, but Anne just battled on, singing louder and louder. Well, a stagehand ran right across the stage with a fire extinguisher. He dodged behind Anne and vented the extinguisher on the flames. Made no difference to the flames or to Anne. She was still singing gloriously. I wanted to shout, "Stop the show!" But you know what we say, the show must go on. And it was a duet, after all. And if you're lucky enough to have a duet with Anne Mortifee, you don't mess with it. And then the stage lights went out. Anne kept singing. The front rows of the audience were scrambling over the backs of their seats, kicking each other in the head, hauling their children by whatever bits of them they could grab hold of. And then the stage manager's voice came across the speaker system. I suppose he was trying to be calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, head for the nearest exit. There's a fire." No shit, Sherlock. The audience was screaming, climbing the walls, getting wedged in the doors. Anne was vaguely aware by now that something was afoot. But she was going to finish that damn song no matter what. And then, after the lights went out, Anne singing louder, our mics went out. Anne sang louder still. And then the sprinkler system came on. I have no idea why they called it a sprinkler system. 80,000 gallons of water is not a sprinkle. It poured down on our heads like the Red Sea on the Egyptian army. But Anne kept singing. We both kept singing, in the dark, under an apocalyptic deluge, until stagehands came out and tapped us both on the shoulder. "I think you should leave the stage." The sprinkler stopped. The fire was out. Anne looked about her at the devastated stage with a puzzled expression, then out at the now empty house. Where did they go? And then at me. "What happened?" she said. The only sound was water draining into the pit, gurgling like a spring brook. It took 2 days to pump it out. The set survived. So did the show. I'm not sure about the stagehand who loaded the flash pot.
Wow, Simon, that was incredible. I mean, you've got so much going on there. You got unspeakable dangers, you got sleeping sickness, you got fire, sprinklers, an enthusiastic stagehand. Reminds me of my wedding night.
Hi, my name is Colleen Winton. I'm 5'4". Oh, wait, that's not what we're doing. I am Colleen Winton, and I am wearing this frock in honor of World Theatre Day because it is what I wore at my last opening night. I wear it in the fervent hope that very soon we can all be together in our favorite spaces to create, consume, and celebrate beautiful, meaningful, and entertaining art on all of our stages. Please. My first time. So as a kid, I was raised on Rodgers and Hammerstein. Yes, I am that old. I loved Oklahoma, South Pacific, Carousel, but mostly I loved The King and I. Now, when I was a kid, there was no musical theater training. There were no academies or conservatories. There was no musical theater summer camp, no competitions. But I did train as a ballet dancer. In my late teens, I hung up my toe shoes. So when I was in my first year of university, I was kind of missing the opportunity to perform. I joined a choir at UBC. And then I saw signs on campus that there was an organization called MASOC that was auditioning for a musical. So I thought, why not? They're probably going to need dancers, right? So I picked a song and off I went to the audition. Now, I had never been in a musical. I'd never auditioned for a musical. So I was a little surprised when I walked into the room and there was a panel of people sitting behind tables, waiting to hear me sing.
Whenever I feel afraid, I hold my head erect and whistle a happy tune so no one will suspect I'm afraid. While shivering in my shoes, I strike a careless pose and whistle a happy tune so no one ever knows I'm afraid. The result of this deception is very strange to tell, for when I fool the people I fool myself as well. I whistle a happy tune, and every single time the happiness in the tune convinces me that I'm not afraid. Make believe you're brave and the trip will take you far. You may be as brave as you make believe you are.
Okay, full disclosure, by now I am so shit scared and my mouth so dry that I couldn't get my lips together to whistle to save my life. I am cursing myself and Rodgers and Hammerstein. Here's how it kind of went. But bless them, they cast me anyway.
You may be as brave as you make believe you are.
Here I am sitting off stage with, do you know what this is? It's an original cell phone. They were that big. No, they weren't. It's a light. It's a light. That was beautiful, Colleen. Thank you. I'm so envious of your voice. But I just want to say, I think it was a good thing that you couldn't whistle in that audition, because another one of these superstitions is you're not supposed to whistle in a theater. It's bad luck. I'm going to tell you why. Way back in the 1600s, when, you know, developments were being made, and they learned how to fly in sets, scenery, sometimes people to the stage. So that was rigging, pulleys, cables, that kind of thing. And that stuff was all very similar to what sailors used on the sailing ships. And so when they were doing that on the ships, they had a system of whistles, of signals to let people know, let the other sailors know what they were about to do. So let's say they'd have a particular whistle to lift a sail up, or another whistle to make a guy walk the plank, you know, that kind of fun stuff. So when they started working in the theaters, they continued to use those special whistles. So if somebody whistled on stage, they might misunderstand and think, oh, that's the sound of the whistle for dropping a sandbag, and, you know, lights out, not good. See, I can't whistle.
Hey, it's Sharon Crandall. I wanted to talk to you about my first time. No, not that kind of first time. My first time auditioning for a theater production. It was back when I was in grade 7. I had just moved from Indonesia to Canada 2 years before that. Didn't really speak much English, but enough that I understood what was up. I didn't come from an artist family, so I came from a family of doctors and dentists and business people. So I wasn't exposed to the arts, and a friend of mine in grade 7 asked me if I wanted to audition for the school musical. I had no idea what a musical was. I didn't know what you needed to do. I didn't know anything about it. I had never seen one before in my life. And she said, it's easy. All you have to do is you sing. They'll give you kind of a choreographed dance number to learn, and you'll do it in front of them. And then maybe they'll ask you to say a couple of lines. I'm like, okay, I can try that. Why not? It's fun, and I wanted to be there for her. So I went. Actually, before I went, I didn't even know what song to sing. So I asked her what song she was singing, and I stole that song from her and sang the same song. It was Castle in the Clouds from Les Mis. So I went in, sang my song. They gave me a few steps to dance, and I did. Never taken a dance class before in my life. And I ended up getting the part. It was for a junior chorus, and we had one number that we kind of lip-synced to and dance. And it was the opening number to Grease is the Word. And the rest of the show, we just kind of hung out. And I think at one point we went like in front of the stage in the audience level and cheered. I don't remember what part that was. Anyway, so that was my first time being on stage in a theater production, which is kind of cool. And ever since then, I haven't been able to leave. I miss it tremendously this past year. I think theater has given me a lot of growth, a lot of insights as to what it is to be a human being, to be open and vulnerable and have empathy for others. And it's just made me see the world, you know, as, I don't know, a little clearer, I guess you can say. It allows me to kind of not judge people and know that everybody has a backstory. Everybody has a story. And that's where theater comes in, because you learn about all those stories from faraway lands that you never encounter in real life. That's the magic of theater. It's just being human, you know? Anyways, that's my first time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Sharon. That was a lovely story. You know, one of the things I love so much is a post-show drink. They taste so good, especially when you've had a success. I mean, if it was one of those nights, well, then you're just drinking. But I do love it. And when you've had a couple of glasses of this, then maybe you can try to remember all the theater terminology. And there's a lot, so I have to read it. Here we go. apron, audition, proscenium, false proscenium. Is that like fake news? Thrust, round, upstage, downstage, audience right, stage left. They're the same thing. Blocking, don't block, open up, cheat out, at the half. Places, vom, strike, sits probe, I only do that in the bathroom. House, booth, rake, 110, clock number, on book, off book, hang, traverse, top and tail, LX, iron, fourth wall, flies, stumble through, dry tech, Italian, barbells, barn doors, bomb flat, book flat, color, call, pancake, twofer, spill. Seriously, no idea.
Oh, well, theater memory. Well, I guess about 31 years ago or something, I was invited down to theater, you know, to, Beata Van Berken was working on the play, you know, and I got down there and she goes, oh, no, not a part. No, we don't have a part for you. Can you help me out in the booth? Do sound for me. It's like, oh, okay, sure. So what is there? She goes, no pay. And I was like, okay. And so edgy, you know, play about discovering their four guys, discovering their sexual identity, you know. It was a really intense director, you know, boys were really working hard for him, giving it their all. And about a week and a half in, we got to the part where there's supposed to be this big kiss, right? We get to the scene and the boys are like, a little reticent, you know. Actually, Mike wasn't really that reticent. He was, you know, 50 push-ups and Mike was ready to do anything. Anyways, I was like, come on, boys, I really got to get to the scene, okay? That's the story. That's the show. Come on. And, you know, and it was getting a little tense back there. I mean, you know, I was in the booth and we're like, come on, guys, we need this to get going. And so we're sitting in the booth. He was on stage, you know, and he was like beside himself, trying to get this thing going. And I was next to the microphone, you know, and I just go, is that the cat? Does anyone hear the cat? The cat? Did you hear the cat? And the boy's like, yeah, we heard the cat. What the heck? And then pretty soon somebody grabs a flashlight. The boys are grabbing other extra flashlights. Everybody's running around the theater and like looking for this cat. And I looked at Beata and said, should I tell him that there's no cat? She goes, no, you're going to get us fired. You're going to get us in trouble. You shouldn't have done that. And I was like, I'm sorry. You should tell him. She goes, no, don't tell him. So they're looking for the cat. And after about half hour, I don't even know, they couldn't find the cat. We all went on a lunch. Finally, we all came back, and everybody was like talking about the cat. Started rehearsal again, and didn't they have the best kissing scene ever? Oh.
Thanks, Sam. That was a great story. I love hearing all these stories because I just feel you. So here I am at the tech table. You know, lights and things happen. Now, here's an interesting little tidbit. You are not supposed to touch any of these buttons. That's not a superstition. That's just because Alistair gets very angry. But here is a superstition. Break a leg. Where does that come from? I know everybody's heard that. Well, you are not supposed to wish somebody good luck at the beginning of a show. You're supposed to say break a leg. And that comes from, once again, in olden times, one of the curtains at the side of the stage is called a leg. And it blocks all that backstage stuff from the audience. So for an actor, getting beyond the leg and onto the stage was success. That's all an actor wants to do. And so that became break a leg, because you got out onto the stage. And now you know.
Hello everyone, and happy World Theater Day. I would love to thank Western Gold Theater for asking me to participate in this, to talk about my first exposure to theater. And it's a memory, you know, that I had forgotten about until not too long ago. I did a show called The King of the Yees, which started at the Gateway Theater in Richmond. And a year later, it was taken to the NAC in Ottawa. And it was there that I reconnected with my grade 5 teacher, Miss Cindy Bailey, because she lives in Toronto or in Ottawa, and she came to see me in the show. And as soon as I saw her, this memory came rushing back right into the forefront of my mind of when I was in grade 5 in her class. And she was always so progressive and taught in such interesting ways. And it was Christmas time, and every class, every grade was going to do a show, do something in the show, and we were going to sing some songs that we had rehearsed. But it was time for the presentation, and Miss Bailey said, Raugi, go downstairs, hold the gym doors open, because, our stage was in the gym. And she's like, let people in, and I'll bring the class down in a little bit, and, I'll see you down there. So I was like, sure, no problem. So I run downstairs, and I'm holding the gym door open, and people are coming through, and Miss Bailey comes down with our class, and she hands me a piece of paper. And I take it, and she's like, okay, Raugi, so there's a list of the order of how the acts are going to go, and, you're going to be the MC, and we'll see you out there. And I was like, what's an MC? I didn't even know. And all I knew was I opened the paper, and there's like 1, 2, 3, and just like, who's going first and singing, doing what. And up to that point, I had no interest being in front of people in any kind of, performance way or anything. Just none of it had occurred to me. So everyone's assembled. I close the door, and I walk up the little steps, walk to the center of the stage, and everyone's looking at me. And all I remember is every few seconds, everyone's laughing. And then I realize it's because of stuff I'm saying. And then I introduce the act, and I go and sit down. And I remember thinking, what just happened? That was really weird. I didn't even know what I was going to say. And I don't know what I'm going to say next. And then go up and introduce the second act, and same thing. And I realize now that was my first real exposure to performing in front of people, taking in an audience, mixing with my energy, and then giving it back to the audience. And I think it's possible that may have been the most in the moment I have ever been as a performer in my life, because I was not even aware of the moment. And I'm so grateful to Miss Bailey because afterwards she said, you were great. I just had a feeling. I knew it should be you. I knew you could do it. And, up to that point, I had forgotten. And I'm so grateful that show brought me to Ottawa, and I got to see Miss Bailey again. And now I get to share this moment with you on World Theatre Day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, theater. Take care.
I always demand 10-year younger bulbs in my dressing room. Thanks, Raugi. That was a great story, and I'm very impressed because you, my friend, you learned the secret to being a great MC in grade 5. You don't know what you just said, you don't know what you're about to say. That took me years to figure out. So, this is a dressing room, also known as a green room. Why was it called a green room? Lots of stories, can't tell you them all today. One of them was when the actors, hundreds of years ago, would gather here to put their makeup on. This makeup was some concoction of heavy metals, probably lead, and they'd slather it on their face, and it had to cure. And it was green. And so they called it the green room. Probably, these metals in there, maybe why they were eccentric or dead. Fortunately, they don't use that type of makeup anymore.
My first audition story.
my worst audition story. I was auditioning for a small theater play in Vancouver, and I was told to come in and audition for one of the lead roles, I was supposed to play the best friend of the lead character. And that's all I was told. Just come in with, we've got sides for you, we've got everything else that you might need, and it's just going to be you and someone reading the lines with you, and we'll do your audition at our offices at this time and that time on this day. It all sounded hunky-dory, all sounded fairly straightforward, which of course should have been my first clue that it wasn't at all straightforward. My first clue was the other person very clearly was another actor, and she had her own set of sides. And I asked her if she was the actress who was playing the main character. I thought, oh, they've brought the girl who is supposed to be playing my best friend here so that we can audition together and get a test of our chemistry and get a chance to bond before the part. Because another bit of background to this is that I had been kind of courted by this person for quite some time. Little sort of non-committal hints dropped about whether or not about how I would be really good for this part and how I might be a valuable asset in the development of the play, because there was lots of conversations to be had about disability and movement and how the characters would be mobile and not mobile at different stages in the play, and how that would look and what we would need. And so I had been brought in for rehearsals, I had been brought in for table reads, I had been brought in for a number of things before. And so getting the call for the audition, I just very much assumed that they were coming in to see that I could actually read the play. I kind of thought it had very much all been leading up to that this was my audition for that part. And got there and found out that the other actor there was auditioning for the same part that I was, and that we were going to be auditioning with each other. So I was going to be reading the main character for her audition, and she was going to be reading the main character for my audition. So now we are auditioning opposite our competition for the role, unbeknownst to both of us, up until this point. Took a second for that to fully sink in. And this was one of my first auditions. First ever audition. So me and me 2.0 get on with our with her audition, and finishes up nicely. She did a beautiful job. She got through it all and went to mine, and we did it a couple of times with a couple of notes and doing it over. And there is a long beat. Long. Took forever. Actors out there, I'm quite certain you know exactly how long this probably millisecond in time took. And I felt sick to my stomach for a second. And then the actor next to me said, which is the reason I tell this story still to this day. She kind of very gingerly touched my arm and said, you know, you gave me something to aspire to, referring to the work I had done in the audition. And I did end up getting the part. After the longest beat known to man, I ended up doing Active Faith with the lovely Tanya Dixon-Warren, which launched my debut on stage, and it was one of the best experiences of my whole life. A horror story with a happy ending. There you go. What more can we ask for? Thank you so much, and happy World Theater Day.
Great job, Emily. Love the story. And you did it. You were great. So, through the magic of technology, we are now at the box office. And I will tell you, there are no boxes here. And I've asked many times. And here's another little rule about the theater. If you know people who are in theater, you've probably wanted to take them a lovely bouquet of flowers for their performance. I, of course, always look for a special deal. Do not give them the flowers at the beginning of the night. Give it to them at the end. You give it to them at the beginning, tempting fate, and we do not want that. We give it to them at the end when they've had a fabulous show and there's no explanations that have to be made. And another little rule, don't take them a giant potted plant. You know, don't take them a ficus. It's very hard to get home on the bus. Now you know.
Hi, my name's Wayne Specht. My journey into a life of theatre began in Prince Rupert. In 1966, just finishing high school, I was the class clown, as also being very athletic, basketball, baseball, and the like. But I decided that I wanted to become an actor. There was no drama in our school, so I wrote to relatives in the big city of Winnipeg, and they gave a call to the Manitoba Theatre Centre, who said, to be an actor, well, you need to go to the National Theatre School of Canada. So I wrote to the school, and they said, be in Vancouver, and we'll audition you. So I believe it was in May of that year, I showed up in Vancouver and was auditioned by Duncan Ross, who's the head of the school. And I did a couple of pieces, which apparently were very unusual, because he said, okay, and so he hopped on the stage with me and he said, let's do some improvisations together. I said, what's an improvisation? So he said, well, we'll just do some stuff together. And I said, all right. And away we went. And after a bit, he goes, okay, we'll be in touch. All right. So I went back to Prince Rupert and worked in the fish canneries for the summer. Got a letter inviting me to the school. So in September, there I was in Montreal, meeting my future classmates, which included the legendary Nikki Lipman and Peggy Lewis, as well as Bill Millard, all of us being from British Columbia. Life at school was thrilling, exciting, a tremendous learning curve. And finally, this is my memory, of course, we were allowed to do a short presentation in front of an invited audience. And I believe that was a Chekhov play, probably Three Sisters. And so there I was with Nikki at the beginning of the play, and started off by going and saying the last line of the play. There was a stunned silence, of course, and Nikki, being a improviser, and myself being an improviser, she got us back on track, and away we go. And that was a lot of fun. And so that became the beginning of my 50 years in theatre, which included 40 years as artistic director at Axis Theatre Company, which brought me great joy and pleasure and a chance to meet and work with incredible artists, see the world, and create memorable theatre for both young audiences and adult audiences. And had the great pleasure of being involved with a play called The Number 14, which we ran for 20 years. So that's been my career. Have a wonderful, happy World Theatre Day. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. What an illustrious career. Lots of famous names in there. And, you know, improv, that's a bedrock foundation for an actor's career. Okay, let's move on to probably the most well-known theater superstition of them all, and that is Macbeth. Oh, God. That's the superstition. You got to spin around 3 times and then spit. And only then can you go back into the theater. And why this is attached to Macbeth,
Hi everyone, my name is Mariam. I am a theater artist based on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsitsáyxemaat nations. Very grateful to be acting and creating on these traditional territories. It is World Theater Day. Hello, so exciting. And I think a show that was like super instrumental, key, iconic to me as a youth in becoming a theater artist was the musical Once on This Island. And I remember just like the magic of it. Of seeing like a Black cast sing their heart out, of seeing my like schoolmates in that production. I think that was my first like real taste and look into theater. And I just remember being like really impressed by the lead. I was like, yo, this girl is killing it on those pipes. Like she is singing her heart out, and she was dancing, and I was just like really taken to that space. And that's when I kind of discovered the power of storytelling in connecting communities, in bridging cultures, and also in just like celebrating life. So in celebration of World Theater Day, I would like to sing a song from that iconic musical, which helped me become the actor and artist and creative that I am today. And this song is called Waiting for Life. How I must feel to go racing wherever you please, flying as free as a bird with its tail in the breeze. Even the fish in the sea must be longing to fly, catching a glimpse of a stranger in white passing by. A stranger racing down the beach, racing to places I was meant to reach. Oh God, please be there. Don't you remember your little T-moon from the tree?
Thanks, Mariam. Okay, one more little superstition nugget to wrap things up. You cannot put a peacock's feather on a stage anywhere in the set. Why? Because it has that eye on it, and I guess it's an evil eye, and once again, we do not want any evil spirits, so you don't do that. And also, a suggestion, make sure you don't do all of these superstition items in one show, because then the theater will just spontaneously combust, and that seems bad to me. So, to wrap up this fantastic World Theater Day celebration, I'd like to say this, that some of the most incredible moments of my life have come from the theater, either being on the stage or sitting in the seats and watching something so memorable. This is where real magic happens. And I can't wait to be sitting next to you, or next to you, or next to you, as long as you don't open those really noisy candies. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen really soon. I can feel it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see all of you once again in the theater.
Que todos compartimos.
Jeg kan ikke vente. Så nå hikker matchidoshi desu ne.
J'en suis impatient.
Esquai quince I can't wait.